Yeah, he's actually the acting director of sport.
Yeah.
Mr. Sunstone Kashiba. So he goes to the airport just before the team flies out. And so Alex takes him into the plane, the same Buffalo, and he says, you're going to sit right here in front of me and, Godfrey tell you, And he says, oh, I'm sorry, I can't come because, just a day earlier or 2 days earlier, President Chiluba had appointed Deepak Patel as the Minister of Sport, or Mr. Kashiba as Acting Director of Sport, and the PS, Permanent Secretary for Sport, Mr. Sipo Modende, were going to onboard him, And so he gets off the plane. So he's the last person in Zambia to board the Buffalo and disembark alive.
So, as the team is in Mauritius, beating Mauritius, back in Zambia, there's a test going on. The plane that will be taking the team to Senegal is undergoing a flight test. And you capture something very important in your book, that the plane had not been active for about 3 months. Some of us are not aviation experts. Is this a big thing, or is this? I mean, that's not supposed to happen, or do you think this is part of the thing that caused the problem?
Well, I think it's a big thing, of course, and it shouldn't be happening because, well, first of all, because I think until probably I did the research for my book, a lot of people thought that the Buffalo that was used to carry the team to Mauritius is the same one that crashed. But it was not. They switched planes. So yeah, now the plane, as you mentioned, that was being prepared for the Senegal leg was considered a VIP. It was actually one of the presidential. It was the presidential plane, meaning used by the president when he traveled around the country, especially going to places out, the smaller towns that did not have good airstrips and so on, good airports. Now it had been parked. Okay, first of all, about 18 months earlier. So this would have been like September 91. It had been flown to Calgary actually for what they call a C check. This is like the second most extensive overhaul. Because I think the D1 is where they basically stripped the plane completely and put it back together. But it had the C check where they almost taking it apart, took the engines apart, put everything back together. And it was flown there. They had 6 pilots, because you got 2 flying in shifts. And it came back and it was pronounced A1. But for some reason, in December 1992, I think it was December 21 or 22, it makes its last flight and it's parked at the ZAF base in Lusaka, which is right, it's adjacent to the international airport, at that time. But now it's KK International. Now, it's given AOG status. AOG, that's aircraft on ground. You can Google that. That's when planes are parked because they have serious faults. So that's why it was serious. AOG status means the plane has been parked. It's got a serious fault. It needs a spare part or something. It has to be fixed. It cannot fly. Yeah. And planes are designed to fly, to stay in the air.
Oh yeah.
And so it's there for 4 months. So that's January, February, March, April. And this is our rainy season. It's hot and wet. So and I asked Air Force for, my Air Force connections. I said, was it in the hangar? I said, no, it's just out in the open. Oh. The planes only go in the hangars when they're working on them. So it's out in the open. So it's exposed to the elements, rain, heat, and everything. Yeah. then, as you mentioned, when the team is in Mauritius, they take it into the hangar and they work on it. I asked, my retired staff contacts, what was wrong with it, but nobody could say. I asked actually the commander, the late commander. In fact, sadly, unfortunately, he passed away a year ago in January. He didn't say what the problem was, what the initial problem was, but they appeared to fix it, and the air commander himself took it on a test flight from Lusaka to Livingstone.
Yeah.
Landed in Livingstone, spent a couple of hours there, flew back to Lusaka. And everything was okay. He says everything was fine. But a few days later, they took it. Someone else took it on, not the commander. Someone else took it on a test flight, and that's when red flags were raised. There were some issues, but for some reason, they decided they still decided that the plane would be used. And in fact, when the team arrives from Mauritius, when they land, so I was talking to Martin Mwamba. He was the third. They went to Mauritius with 3 goalkeepers. Martin Mwamba, no relation to myself.
Yeah.
But he says that when they land and they're taxiing, I think when they get off the plane, someone points out to them and says, "Oh, that's the plane that you're going to use tomorrow," because they arrived on a Monday afternoon, and then they were supposed to leave for Senegal the next morning, Tuesday morning.
Right. Yeah. Goodness. So they arrive in Zambia on the 25th. Land. They see the plane there.
No, the 25th is a game. They arrive on the 26th.
26th.
Monday the 26th. Yeah.
Oh, you return Monday 26th. They land.
Yeah.
They see the plane. That's going to take them to the next trip, and they head to Masia Lodge to sleep in time for the trip the next day. So at this particular time, everyone is there apart from Talusha, who's in Europe, and who else? Eston Mulenga. Okay.
No, Mulenga was playing for Nkana. He was a home-based player. Charles Musonda was in Belgium. Yeah. But what they did not know is that he was injured. They were counting on him. They were thinking, because Charles, after from 1990, started having problems with his knee. I think the right knee. It was flaring up, so he would only play sporadically. He would play sporadically, yeah. And of course, he was a very vital player for Anderlecht. He was a vital player for Anderlecht, yeah. But he had played against Madagascar in Lusaka, and he had played against. He kept, I think, 3 times. He played against Tanzania. He played against Madagascar, and he played against Namibia, and actually scored a goal against Namibia, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, yeah. So they wake up the next morning, the 27th, ready for the trip to Senegal. So the route map was known. So they were supposed to first fly to Brazzaville, Maya Airport. When I was doing my research, I think that was around probably 1,800 kilometers. Then from there, we're supposed to go to Brazzaville. I'm very curious about this leg, but you'll answer that later. Why this short leg again? And then from there, they're supposed to fly to the Felix Houphouët-Boigny Airport in Senegal. So 2 stops on the way to Senegal. So that's the route. Everybody knows that they're supposed to take off in the morning. Now, when they wake up in the morning, they go for breakfast. And the reason why I want to capture this part of the story is because there are some near misses. There's some guys who should have been on the plane, but for one reason or another, did not make it to the plane. So let's start with the team. They're having a breakfast. After breakfast, some guys are called and told they won't go.
Yeah, 2 players. So Martin Mwamba, as I mentioned, there were 3 goalkeepers that went to Mauritius. Martin is a 3rd choice goalkeeper. So the coaches Alex and Godfrey Chitalu call Martin Mwamba, and they call a young midfielder Andrew Tembo, who played he was playing for Zamshore in Lusaka. And they say, well, because we're going to be joined by Kalusha and Charles. At this point, of course, they are unaware that Charles is injured. So you guys are going to remain behind So they said, okay, thank you. And Martin Mwamba leaves. They both leave. So Museum, it's in the light industrial area, northern part of the city, towards the airport. So he walks to what's, known as the Great North Road, which goes all the way to Dar es Salaam, I believe. Yeah, it connects to Dar es Salaam.
Yeah.
So he gets a ride into the city center. So he wants to get his allowances in kwachas, local money. He's going to the FA's office. They were on the 9th floor of a skyscraper called the Anchor House. And of course, he had been paid for the Mauritius trip. He had like $500 in allowances, US dollars, but he wants to get his kwachas. So he gets and while he's there again, he meets some of his teammates. They've just, they've arrived from a CM hotel. They have come to pick up the kit that they were going to wear in Senegal. And he says bye to them.
Wow.
And
Whoa.
He doesn't know that's the last time he's seen them. So, yeah, he had actually, before going to Anchor House, he had gone to the city bus terminus and bought a ticket because he played for Dynamos in Kitwe, which is like about, by bus, depending on the traffic and the road condition, as much as 4 or 5 hours by bus north. So he bought a ticket for the 1 p.m. Bus. He goes to FAS, gets his money, but I guess he's distracted. He misses the 1 p.m. bus, so he catches a later bus. He gets to Kitwe, but long story short, by the time he gets to Kitwe, he gets to his house, Kitwe, it's almost midnight, Tuesday. And when you do the math, that's right the same time the plane has crashed in Libreville. So that's when he's getting home. Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just imagining the kind of things he was going through. Yeah. So you mentioned the two players. There's some other guys who also missed that flight. Maybe you can mention them and just briefly touch on how they missed the flight.
Yeah, there were two journalists that missed the flight because, and again, which I mean, this is aside the story, of course. I mean, I didn't pursue this angle. I mean, it's like, okay, because that Zambia, you've got the schedule, April 25, Zambia versus Mauritius in Mauritius. I think it was May 3 is when Zambia was supposed to play in Senegal.
Yeah.
Or it was the following Sunday. And then, the Times of Zambia did send Beauty to Mauritius. So they should have, but when they land, the sports editor, who was actually my chief reporter when I started at the Daily Mail, he was previously at the Daily Mail, he decides that, they should relieve Beauty and send another reporter. And Chris Kachingwe volunteers, to travel. But and then at the Zambia Daily Mail, my old paper, Goliath Mongonga, is supposed to travel. But the problem is that they don't have, this is before credit cards in Zambia.
Yes.
They don't have traveler's checks, they don't have the money. I mean, that money should have been prepared before, right? But then, thank goodness it wasn't. That money, they should have had that money ready before, right? Because that on this date there's this going on. But thank goodness, yeah. So those are two, and then there's also Simata was
yes,
a football fan and later a football official. He actually even served in FAS after the crash. So now, but in this case, it was, and that would have been, if he had been on that plane, that would have been very, very accidental, very bizarre, because he gets off from work. He's on his way home. He's given a lift to, I think, a couple of folks, and I think he's about to join the road. This is now 5 o'clock. It's rush hour, and he's about to join the greatest road. This is a road now that goes all the way to Chipata, connects to Malawi. And as he's about, he's when it's traffic, and then he sees the bus, the national team bus. And then the players, I guess they're, because he was well known.
Yeah. They
see his car, and some of the players, stick their heads out of the window and they shout to him, "Hey, Mdela. He said, come, boss, come. So he says, "Oh, okay." So he follows him to Masia Motel, and because he had been, remember, just the previous year, 1992 AFCON was held in Senegal,
Senegal,
and he
yes.
had traveled there. He had traveled there as a fan, yeah. And so that some of the players, remember him from that, and they had a good time, friendly, generous guy. Um, so he's talking to them, and he's like, they say, "Oh, you should come." He says, "Yeah, but your plane must be full." He says, "No, we're using a military plane. There are lots of empty seats because the Buffalo could carry 45,
Mhm.
and there were only 30, so they had
30,
like
yeah.
15 empty seats.
Mm.
15 empty seats. It's a free ride." So it's like, come. So, okay, he's there in the evening, and, Aston Malenga's body, back in those days, you had one of those CD players, and he's setting it up, say, "Oh, you should come, just, come with us." And so he says, okay, he decides, yeah, okay, let me do that. But next morning, so he asked him, "What time are you guys leaving?" He says, "Oh, in the morning we'll be leaving." So, okay. So early in the morning, Simata wakes up and drives to the first chairman's house just to ask him, officially, of course, he can't go there on the invite of the players. So, and he knew the chair, very well. He knew the chair's family. So he wants to go ask the chairman and say, "Oh, can I tag along?"
Mhm.
But by some quirk of fate, he gets there just a few seconds late because the chair has already left. So
Oh,
when he gets there, he finds the chair's wife, and she says, "Oh, Sonny, you didn't see his car? He just left." So he says, "Okay, then." So he says, "Okay, it doesn't matter." And that's how he missed that flight. Otherwise, because obviously the chair wasn't going to say no.
yes,
You know,
yes, of
he'd have
course.
said sure, and
Yeah,
so Simata was ready to jump yeah, jump on the plane. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Then there's the government official who supposed to fly with them, but then
yes,
they've been on another appointment, so they needed to stay.
yeah. He's actually the acting director of sport.
Yeah,
Mr. Sunstone Kashiba, who I remember very
yeah.
well.
Mm.
At that time, he worked for the Ministry of Sport, and he was involved with the Zambia, because it was relegated by the government, the Zambia Wrestling Professional Boxing,
Mm.
association. Yeah. So he goes to the airport just before the team flies out. And again, the departure has been delayed. The departure has been delayed. So, but he gets to the airport. He gets to the ZAF side, actually, or that, because that's where they were boarding, from the ZAF side. Because from there they taxi onto the main runway at the airport. And so he's from Lapula, same province as Alex Chola's parents. Alex Chola was born in Congo, but his parents were from Wapula, but the father went to, or rather his father was from Wapula, but he went to Congo, when it was a Belgium Congo, to work. And that's where Alex was born. I don't know about whether his mother was Zambian or whether
Yeah.
she was Congolian, I'm not too sure.
Right.
But long story short, he later came back to Zambia, Alex. And so they're from Lopula. So Alex sees Mr. Kashiba, and they're joking, they say, "Oh, yeah, we're from Lopula, we're from Congo, Congolese." And so Alex takes him into the plane, the same Buffalo, you know, and he says, "What is where you're going to sit right here in front of me and Godfrey Stall." And he says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't come because just a day earlier or 2 days earlier, President Chiluba had appointed Deepak Patel as the Minister of Sport.
Mhm.
So Mr. Kashiba as acting director of sport, and the PS, Permanent Secretary for Sport, Mr. Sipo Modende, were going to onboard him. So they were going to conduct, to orientate him to the ministry. So I said, so we can't come, we're sorry. So I said, okay. And so he gets off the plane. So he's the last person in Zambia to board the Buffalo and disembark alive.
Wow. Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And Alex showed him, this is where we're sitting here. It was actually parallel to the wings. And
Yeah.
that's the strongest part of any plane. That's the
Yeah.
sturdiest part. And I guess that explains why Gottfried Stahler's body was intact. There were a few bodies intact. His was intact.
Mm.
Alex Shaw's body was cut in half.
Oh.
But that was probably the belt,
Mm.
the belts, when the plane fell
Oh,
and
yeah.
crashed here.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What? And any of these guys, some of them, of course, we know Kalusha. Are any of these other guys still alive today? Some of these survivors who never made it to the plane.
Oh, they're all there.
Oh, okay.
Chris Kachingwe, I interviewed Chris Kachingwe for the book. Goliath also, gave me a lot of inputs. Mr. Kashiba still alive. Yeah, Kalusha's there. Yeah. Martin Mwamba is there. He's actually right now as we speak. Martin Mwamba is with the under-17. He's a goalkeeper coach for the under-17 Zambia team, national team. They are playing in Qatar. They're playing at the FIFA under-17 World Cup.
World Cup. Yeah, it's going on as we speak. Yeah. Okay.
All right. In fact, they drew with Zambia. Actually, it's surprisingly done very well. They are now in the round of 32, I think. Yeah, round of 16 or 32. Yeah, they're playing, I think Mali, from what I saw, they're playing Mali, yeah. They drew 1-1 with Brazil. So that's been a good result for Zambia. Of course, Zambian football the last 10 years has not been, it doesn't enjoy the best of fortunes. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Yeah. So all these guys missed the flight. Eventually, the players and the coach and the flight crew get on the plane and they depart, heading towards Libreville. Or was it Brazzaville?
Brazzaville. That was the first. The first refueling stop was Brazzaville.
Yeah. So the first leg of the journey was okay, from all accounts.
Not exactly from and this is from Africa Soccer, yeah, because they had reports there from Congo. When they get to Brazzaville, apparently approaching Brazzaville, there are issues with the left engine. There are issues with the left engine, but they land, they refuel, and I guess they had an engineer and they looked at the left engine and they figured, okay, it's good to go. And then they fly another 500 miles to, I'm sorry, when they get to Brazzaville, not Liverpool, Brazzaville. When they get to Brazzaville, Congo, there are some issues with the engine, the left, what they call the port engine, left engine. But I guess the engineer looks at it, they review and they decide it's good to go. They continue to Libreville, land, and again they're looking at it, and and they review again, and then they decide to continue.
And do we have like what you can call an accurate account of what happened from now, Libreville, as they're heading towards Senegal? Do we have because I know there's so many versions, this version about the flying over the France military. We have an official version, I mean not an official, a version that people can say is actually credible of what happened.
Yeah, well, and people listen to different types of stories, but again, Africa Soccer magazine, and they gave me permission to. That's the cover photograph came from Africa Soccer, from their copy, and Africa Soccer was published like about 3-4 months. I think it was a quarterly after the crash, and they had reporters there. They spoke both local Gabonese. So these are people that interviewed airport workers. And there's, they're the ones that said, well, we saw the players came out of the plane, they were on the tarmac, they were stretching, they were, and then they boarded the plane. Some say they told, according to Africa Soccer, they because it's late at night, because they took off at like it was 11:15 local time.
Local time, okay.
About 10:45 when they took off, actually when the plane crashed, yeah. So they're telling them, they said, why don't you just abort and spend the night, because, you need to have a look at this engine clear, I guess in the light. Why don't you, just continue tomorrow? But they decided to continue. And this is according to African Soccer. And I did ask, Ponga Luewe, the son of Dennis Luewe, who was the correspondent for Africa Soccer. I mean, I spoke to him, and I also spoke to Mr. Maradas, who owned the publication here. I mean, this is the best of the knowledge, the information they got. They were told, they were asked, why don't you just wait? But they decided to continue. And we can just speculate, because the thing about, the pilots there, remember there were 3 pilots.
Yes.
They have some reporters or reports have said, well, they blame Colonel Mahoney, he was a full colonel. The other 2 were lieutenant colonels. So he was the boss there. They say, oh, he was tired because he flew the team to Mauritius and back, but they forget that there were 3 pilots, so they rotate. The one thing I haven't been able to get and I've asked this question, but nobody has really responded. From the Air Force, my former Air Force connections, what's the rotation? I mean, when you're on a trip like this, you've got 3 pilots. So let's say you've got pilot A, pilot B, pilot C. So you have pilot A and B fly the first leg to Congo Brazzaville.
Yeah.
And I presume that pilot A would have been the chief, which is a Colonel Mahoney. And then when they get to Brazzaville, they rotate. So pilot C, who was sitting it was a passenger, now takes over, and the colonel, goes to sit in the cabin with the players. Yeah. And I think that's the rotation. Because in any case, again, my Air Force contacts tell me that Colonel Mahoney was not flying the plane because when the plane crashed, because the pilots have the harness seatbelts.
Yes.
Yeah, and I was actually told this in 95, 18 months after the crash. I traveled to Zambia, and it turned out that there's one gentleman I was with when I was doing my military training, national service, and he had joined, after military training, he joined ZAF. He's deceased now, but he actually became Air Force commander. And he told me, I bumped into him at the Daily Mail, and he's the one who told me that the pilots' bodies were intact. So that's how they could tell, who was in the cockpit.
Who was in the cockpit?
The intact bodies, So if there's the body of a pilot that's all mangled, so it means that he was in the cabin. Yeah. So he wasn't there. So, and the other thing I wanted to say is that because I remember very well when in 1999, when John F. Kennedy Jr. died in a plane crash, and I think I might have been on CNN or one of the television thing, and there was an aviation expert that was saying, because he had, I think JFK Jr. had 300 hours, flying hours. And they said like usually pilots like that have limited hours are more careful than, the experienced pilots. Because if you've got 20,000 hours of flying time, it's like, oh, it's okay. This is nothing, there's a light flashing out, And I did try I tried my best. I tried to find out how many flying hours, the pilots had. Nobody could get that information to me. In the end, I was referred to the Ministry of Defense. Now, good luck trying to get information from a ministry on our continent.
Of course.
But the fact is that, and I went by, there was a press conference, actually the day after the crash, the air commander had a press conference, and for many years it was on YouTube. I can't find it now, but I taped it, the audio, and did a transcription and everything. But he mentioned, I know they had like, Colonel Mahoney had like maybe he had been flying for like about 20 years. Whoa. And Colonel Mwanga too, about 20 years. Remember I mentioned he had flown the Supporters 1974. Yeah. So that was 19 years, yeah. So they were all very experienced. So you reckon they had at least, like 15,000 hours flying time. A lot of experience, yeah. So you can see that what they decide when they make that decision, it's like, oh, it doesn't matter. It's not, this is not a problem. We've flown. I'm just assuming, but that's the thing. When you've got fewer hours, you're more cautious, more careful. Yeah.
Good. So the official. So what we'll say is, with the account where they say, so as the plane was taking off from Libreville, the people hear an explosion, which people assume is on their port side wing, propeller, and the plane goes down. That's basically what happened.
Well, there was no official report put out by the Gabonese government.
Yeah,
they put out a 60-page, and that's what they said. Okay. The plane took off, and it's not like it caught fire; it exploded.
Exploded, yeah.
There was an explosion, so it was all very sudden. It wasn't. I mean, it explodes and it's burning. So there was an explosion. The port side, the left side of the engine exploded. The left engine, rather, it exploded, and then it exploded, and then somebody or one of the two pilots switched off the wrong engine, because the procedure is that, okay, you've got your engine on, your left engine's on fire.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's cut the supply of gas to it, to extinguish it. Yeah. But in the panic, because it's sudden, in the panic, someone switches off the right engine. So that loses power, and then the plane comes down. And that all happened within seconds.
I can imagine.
Yeah. It happened within seconds, yeah. Very quick seconds, because if it just catches fire and they see, oh, look, it's burning, they would not have. But it must have exploded, and the plane lurched, and then in the panic they take off the wrong switch off the wrong engine. Yeah.
Yeah, and unfortunately they were flying over the ocean, so they crashed into the ocean.
Yeah. Well, you could say maybe they were even lucky, because lucky for the rescuers, and because imagine if this had happened 200 miles out.
Yeah.
Because they were flying across now to go to Ivory Coast.
Yeah.
To Abidjan. Now imagine if that had happened 200 or 500 miles. They would have just found wreckage and stuff here. Should have been.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. So that's 27th night, going into 28th morning.
It's local time is local time was like 10:45. That's quarter to 11. Yeah. Now the thing is that, you see, because Libreville is an hour behind Zambia. In Zambia, it's quarter to. And the thing is that in Zambia, because obviously people did not hear about the accident until the next day, so that's why even in a lot of accounts they mentioned 28th April, but the date is placed at where it happened. Yeah, the time, local time. What time did it happen at local time? So you can't date it using your time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the next day, Zambia wakes up expecting to hear the team has arrived in Senegal, but the news doesn't come through. So when did you hear about this first? When did you hear about this tragedy?
I heard Kalusha calls me at it's like a 5 a.m. New York time.
Okay.
So he's in he's in PSV, he's in Eindhoven, he's in Holland, which this is April, so I think there was 6 hours behind, so that's 6 hours ahead. So yeah, so that would be like about early like about 13 hours, I guess, right? Yeah. Yeah.
So Kalusha is the one who called you and told you about it.
He called me. He received a call from Faz. Faz called him and tell him, do not travel. They say, in fact, he says, I remember very well, he says, the Faz official says, how are you? And then he's like, oh, I'm good. He says, well, and I think he said something, are you sitting down or something like that? And then he tells him that, the plane has crashed. And I think that I'm probably the first person, Kalusha, because I had spoken to him the previous week. The previous Tuesday, I was talking to Kalusha, and he told me I will be traveling to Senegal. We were talking about the same, upcoming game. And he says, I'll be traveling to Senegal. He said on Wednesday, yeah. You'll be traveling to Senegal on Wednesday, from Holland, Paris, I think Takeoff.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, say hi to Godfrey, say hi to Alex.
Yeah.
Tell them I'm looking forward to seeing them next year, because we were so confident we were going to qualify.
They make it to the States. That's where you were living, yeah?
Yeah, I'm in New York, looking forward.
Yeah.
And I had plans on Wednesday afternoon. And this shows you how much soccer has developed in this country, football in America, because you couldn't watch games on TV at that time. There was a big game, a qualifying game, Holland and England, and there was an English pub in Lower Manhattan, what they call the village, Greenwich Village. There was an English pub that was going to show the game for $10. You had to pay $10 at the door to watch a game. So I said, okay, great. I was a big fan of the Dutch. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go down there. So Kalusha calls at 5, and this is before cell phone, so it's a landline. I was living with my brothers. And so one of them, I didn't have the phone in my room. It was on the other side of the apartment. So one of my brothers answered and comes and knocks on my door and says, "Oh, Kalusha's on the phone." And I'm thinking, why is Kalusha calling me at five in the morning on, this is now Wednesday morning here. He said, he told me he was going to be flying to Dakar, but I'm thinking, so I pick up the phone. And the first thing he says, "Oh, Jay, the plane." And when he says that, I already know. It's like I know what he's going to say. He just says the plane carrying the national team. And I knew what it was. Oh, and what I did is I'm a journalist. What I do is that now I get the phone and I call the Daily Mail, my old paper. And they say, yeah, it's happened. I'm like, so I start going through the list from goalkeeper. Was Efford on board? Yes. Was Eston Mlengo on board? Yes. Was Darby on board? Yes. Oh my goodness. Oh, yes, it's over, it's finished. Yeah, but still more, I'm getting all this information and it's like, I'm trying to process it, and then I was in college then, but I just actually I was in graduate school, but I had one class I was working, on campus, and I'm like in a daze. So I spend the whole day. Then at the end of the day, I go to, downtown to watch to this pub to watch, and I never drank, by the way. I just went there to watch the game, to watch England versus Holland.
Yeah.
And now, you have the screens there, in the pub now, and then large screens. And then just before kickoff, they play the national anthems. And then just after the national anthems, and that you can hear the commentator, a minute of silence for the Zambian team killed last night.
Whoa.
I started crying. I didn't. And I see these are my favorite players, the Dutch players, Frank Rijkaard, Willet. Their heads are bowed, and I start crying.
Oh,
that's when I started crying.
Goodness. Yeah.
I started crying.
I can feel your emotions. That's almost 30 years after, and still raw. And man, my heart is with you, man. Yeah. So it happens. So the national news breaks. I'm sure the president made an address to the nation. Then plans are made to go and collect the bodies from Gabon. And there's a whole story behind that, because the guys who went there did a terrible job. Basically the guys who went to collect the bodies didn't do any investigation. They didn't do anything. They left everything to the journalist. You capture that very well in your book, which I hope our readers will get to buy and read.
Yeah, it appears, when they flew to Gabon to retrieve the bodies, so they were, oddly enough, there was only one FAS official. He's now secretary to the cabinet. Well, he went there as a FAS representative, and Patrick Congo is now secretary to the Zambian government, so he's a top civil servant. And they sent him there. The reason they sent him there is because he knew everybody. He knew all the FAS personnel, the players he had played with. Then he was a coach and everything. So the idea was that he goes there, because Zambia, we have not experienced this. We have not had, we had that, Air Force crashes here and there, but we haven't had anything on the magnitude. So they don't know what a plane crashes entail. So they're thinking he's going in there. It's like an accident. He's just going to see, oh, that's so-and-so, that's so-and-so. No. They're shocked. This is a plane crash, They're mangled bodies. They're unrecognizable bodies. So he's sent there to recognize him, and they have a medical team. There were two doctors. There was a surgeon, Professor Munkonge. There was a nurse from the casualty, which is emergency, as I say, in the U.S., the emergency room, casualty from UTH, the main hospital. And there was another doctor from ZAF. And then you had the military intelligence folks, and there were other folks from the state intelligence, they call them OP, Office of the President. And I guess there probably were some other ZAF officials. So they get there. But a lot of they were journalists, sorry. One from the Times, one from the Daily Mail, and there was I think from Zambia Broadcasting Services then, Corporation, rather, Zambia National Broadcasting, ZNBC, yeah. So the journalists are given a car and like a guide, and they set up shop basically at on the beach where they're bringing the bodies and stuff, debris. So they are there the whole day. They arrived on Thursday. They left on Sunday. So I guess, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, they're there. And then the medical crew, including Patrick Congo, who's now Secretary to the Cabinet, they were at the mortuary. They are receiving the bodies, and they have to put some of them are in parts, pieces, some are cut in two, some are intact. It's a plane crash, yeah. So they're putting them in the boxes in the caskets here. They had actually carried 30 caskets, but they were deemed they couldn't use them because the bodies had been in water and stuff. They needed sealed. So they got them from the Gabonese. Provided caskets sealed, water sealed, so there'll be no seepage and everything. Yeah. So they were doing that, and then the rest of the folks were at the airports, and that really probably explains why there's been no official report issued, because there really was no investigation done. Because the Gabonese government put out their report 10 years later in 2003. It was a 60-page report. I tried to get it. During the World Cup in 2018, I was in DC for a conference, and I was calling the Gabonese embassy. I wanted to make connections, contacts. They had a military attaché there. He was an admiral. I left voice messages, emails, explained what I was doing, sent links. He never got back to me. I got as far as the secretary. I'll try again, because I just wanted. I mean, you put out a report. It was released. It was public. So is there any way I can get a copy? Send me a copy. It doesn't matter if it's in French. I'll get it translated. Yeah, but no response. Never ever responded. Yeah, I'll try again. It's 30-something years later. Maybe I'll keep on trying. Yeah. But on the Zambian side, no report has ever come out. When the Gabonese put out their 60-page report, then I remember and it's in the book, I think the Zambian VP at that time read excerpts of it in Parliament and said, "Oh, more shall follow." But there was nothing. And then, of course, the clincher was when I spoke to the former president of Zambia, who was a huge football fan, and I asked him, I said, "When you were in State House, did you see the reports?" He says, "No, there's no reports." Look, Zambia's had 5 presidents now since different parties. So it's not like you've got anything to hide. It didn't happen under your. It didn't happen under your watch, under your tenure. It was the other party. In fact, it would be good for you to say, "Look, you see that other party." Imagine if that was Trump. If that was Trump, you'd be like, "Oh, you still don't."
I'm surprised even someone like Rupia Banda. I mean, he loved football and.
He says no. He says there was no report yet. Yeah. So.
Okay.
And.
So Jay, we're trying to land this plane. So the bodies are brought back, and when you were starting the episode, we played a clip of the President Chiluba during the service. So the bodies are safely brought back, and they are all buried in the stadium, outside the stadium at Heroes.
Just outside, yeah.
And they're still there up to today. All the.
Oh yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. It's still there. Yeah. It's still there. I'm in touch now with some of the children. I mean, of course, they're big now. That was 32 years ago. So they, they're in their 30s, and they would like it to be something to be done, to be, I guess, redesigned and stuff. Yeah, and I agree with them. They should do it. But they have a foundation. The children of the 30 victims. They have a foundation.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so they would like, we'll see what happens in the future. We'll see how things go, yeah.
And then Zambia makes a very bold decision, because you can imagine after a tragedy like this, no one will want to play football again. But Zambia makes this bold move and decides that we will continue with the campaign. We will continue with the qualifiers to make it to the United States. And that was a very bold move. What was the opinion in the country? Was there a divided opinion, or everyone agreed with that? decision.
I think a lot of people agree with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, to me, if you ask me,
Mhm.
what has been Zambia's greatest achievement ever in
Mhm.
anything,
Mhm.
I would say that to me, that's Zambia's greatest achievement ever. And that's one reason I even wrote the book, you know.
Mhm.
One reason, yeah.
Mhm.
That's been the greatest, Zambia's greatest achievement, you know, deciding to go, you know, ahead. And not only that, but also excelling, pretty
Yeah.
much bouncing back,
Yeah.
pretty much bouncing back.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
pretty
can imagine.
much bouncing back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can imagine the
And I can,
first. Mhm.
and I
Sorry.
can say,
Mhm.
if Charles Musonda had been there fit, he
Mhm.
wasn't fit.
Mhm.
You know, he was having injury
The
problems,
knee.
you know,
Yeah.
knee problems.
Mhm.
Yeah, knee problems. If he had been there fit, I'll tell you, Zambia qualifies for the World Cup easily.
Oh.
And they would win. They would have won the AFCON, and you know, and this was even before Stephen Keshi said it. Stephen Keshi, the great Nigerian defender, later coach, and he was Charles Musonda's teammate at Anderlecht,
Mhm.
and he played. He was in the AFCON team in '94. He didn't play in the final, but he had played earlier on. And when he went back to Belgium, he told Charles, he says, Charles, if you had been there, we would not have won.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he told Charles that.
Yeah. They just missed the World Cup by a whisker and losing to Morocco in the last match, but they were
Yeah,
definitely going for it. And but they qualified for AFCON '94. I remember AFCON '94 very well because that's the first AFCON that I can say I fully remember. I was 10 years old at that particular time. And I remember that final very well in '94 against Nigeria, because my father is a huge Super Eagles fan. So I remember watching the game with
yeah,
him. And I remember I could, I tried, there was something about that match. I remember they mentioned something. I can't recall they mentioned the tragedy, but I can't remember very well. But I somehow was really connected to the Elijah Litana, those names. And
yeah.
so my dad was supporting Nigeria. I was supporting Zambia. Sadly, they lost. But yes,
Yeah,
just to show you how, to our listeners, that just
yeah.
1 year after the tragedy, Zambia made it to the AFCON final in '94. And even '96, I think they reached the semis in South Africa. Remember?
Which the same is absolutely. Which the
Yeah,
same is, yeah.
yeah. So, but I want to zoom all the way to the miracle as we try and end the story. Then another AFCON is held in Gabon and Equatorial Guinea, 2012. 2012. The same Gabon where the tragedy happened, and Zambia qualified for this final, coached by Javier Renard, and they make it to the final. I mean, how are you feeling when all this thing happened? What was happening?
Well, you know, whether if you don't believe in the afterlife, if you don't
Yeah.
believe in life after death, after that, you have to, you know,
Mm.
that they're not dead, they're still there in spirit, you know. And I watched. I was actually in Zambia
Mm.
from the beginning up until I left, and I used to connect through South Africa, so I left after the quarterfinals. I watched the semifinal against Ghana
Yeah.
in Johannesburg,
Mm.
and then I arrived here in New York, and I think the final was
Mm.
the day after I arrived. And again, you know, you had to go to there was a place somewhere in Manhattan where they were showing closed circuits, you know, charging like $20 or something to watch it. Oh, I would gladly pay. So there was a number of Zambians who were there. And the moment I was convinced Zambia was going to win is when Ivory Coast were awarded a penalty. And it's funny because it's like a hall, you know, we're all standing, there were drinks and everything. And I just started shouting, "Effort, effort." But of course,
Oh yeah,
Kennedy Mwine is
the
a goalkeeper.
goalkeeping. Yes.
And you know, Effort Chavala was pretty good at saving penalties, yeah.
Mm.
And I'm just shouting, "Effort, effort, effort." And he blasts the ball over, and I knew it's over. I said, you know, they're giving us they're giving us divine assistance, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the
So that's
reasons.
what I meant, yeah.
Yeah. One of the reasons why I call this podcast, Right Place, Right Time, is on a personal, apart from the historical aspect, is a personal selfish reason, because I believed personally I've always been at the right place at the right time to witness so many things. The 12th,
Mm-hmm.
that final was on my birthday. It was the 12th February. I remember it very well.
Oh, wow.
That was a Sunday. I remember very well.
Yeah.
And I remember I woke up that morning, and that's the same day that Whitney Houston had died. So I think she died on,
Oh, really?
in America, it was 11th, but we woke up
Yeah.
on the 12th in the morning. And I remember, why are they playing Whitney Houston songs all over the place? Then I found out she died. So it was my birthday.
Wow.
So of course we went out, partied. So by the time I was
Yeah.
watching the match that evening, I was so tired. Guess what? I blacked out just before the penalties.
Oh, wow.
And
But you woke up to hear.
so I think I don't know if you know him. It's called Gleason. It's called the South African commentator, somebody Gleason. So he's
Yeah. Mark Gleason.
Mark
Yeah, Mark
Gleason.
Gleason.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So I remember I was woken up by this shout of Sunzu. So and I woke up. I'm seeing Zambian guys running all over the pitch. That's why I missed all the penalties. I didn't watch any of them,
Wow.
but I still
Have
remember
you
that
watched
day.
them on YouTube?
Yes, I've watched them. I watched them, of course, but I still remember that day
Yeah.
because I missed the most important moment. And I'm sure you
Yeah.
were very happy watching that game.
Yeah.
And
No, it was surreal. It was surreal, you know. I mean, you know, because usually I never drank on Sundays, you know, but that day to Sunday, you know, we made an exception, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a wonderful story. I mean, the same place where the the tragedy is the same country where
Yeah.
the country goes back and brings
Yeah.
glory to the country. An amazing story, Jay. So,
Yeah.
do you think the nation learned from this world event, and did things change in terms of how they handle the national team and transport after the tragic event of 1993?
Oh yeah, it's you know, and that's the irony, you know, because in my opinion, I mean, Zambian football is the way it's run now. It's very, it's professional league, you know. It's very professional.
Okay.
I mean, times have changed. I think, and I think ever since the 90s, I think after that crash or so, I know that FIFA gives each association like what, like I know at one time, maybe 10 years ago, that each association would get like $250,000 in support a year, I think annually. And now it's going to go up because the World Cup is making more money, generating more revenue that goes to associations. So they get some support there, but they do not. There might have been just maybe once or twice when they flew. Well, not the national team itself, but I think the women's team might have flown on a Zaf plane. But of course, the planes are different now. They're no longer using those and those Buffalo, those old planes. But yeah, things have changed. The team, in terms of organization, you know, times have changed. But I think the problem we have now is right now, it's talent actually right now, you know. No, but that's cyclical, you know. There are times when you're dry. Yeah, because there was one time when Zambia just used to produce a lot of outstanding players, and it's been a little bit dry the last few years, you know. Yeah, but
Okay.
you know, as long as it doesn't happen to anybody else again, that's what matters, I think. Yeah, not just Zambia, but anybody else.
I know there's someone could be feeling that we've brushed through this story, but there is a wonderful book out there by Jay Mwamba. It's called Crash of the Buffalo. Some 313 of so wonderful story, wonderful story that grips you from start to finish. I've read the book twice, and I'm not reading it again. So I urge anyone who's not read the book, who does not know about the book, we can get it online, Amazon and all these places. Or maybe you can tell us where we can get the book.
Yeah, Amazon. I mean, since this is a global platform, Amazon definitely. If you're in the US, Barnes and Noble on Amazon, Amazon UK, Amazon USA, or Pitch Publishing. That's a publisher. In the UK, Pitch Publishing. Yeah. Thank you very much. That would be nice.
Yeah, and you won't regret it. I can assure you, you won't regret it. So, Jay, I want to finish this because I know you have other things you need to do. So, I wanted to end by just reading the names of all the players who are on that plane. But before I do that, do you have probably any last words that you want to give to guys who are watching or listening to this pod.
Yeah, I would like to say thank you very much for listening. And, I hope, we've given you some information. And, whether you're an ardent soccer fan or just, a sports fan, I hope this has, just stirred your interest or your curiosity. And I hope that you'll be able to, read the book, and it was a defining moment in world sport. And, again, one of the reasons I wanted to write about the book, it's just not for posterity, but also to celebrate Zambian football. And at the same time to, uh, somebody asked me, they know of, on another podcast, they said, we've heard of the Munich air crash. Manchester United lost like 8. I think they lost 8 players. Torino, and then this happened pretty recently. Relatively recent. Munich crash was 1958. Torino was, I think, was 48 or 49, and this relatively recent. But we haven't heard or known much about it. But this is opportunity. If you'd like to hear, if you'd like to know more about it, just, get the book, Crash of the Buffalo, Pitch Publishing.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Good stuff. And as we end, allow me just to read the names of everyone who was on that play. So the players were Effort Chabala, John Sopo, Whitestone Changwe, Robert Watikani, Watiakani, Eston Mulenga, Debbie Makinka, Moses Chipolopolo, Wisdom Mumba Chansa, Kelvin Malaza Mutale, Timothy Muitwa, Numba Mwila, Richard Mwanza, Samuel Chomba, Moses Masua, Kenan Simambe, Godfrey Kangwa, Winter Mumba, and Patrick Bomba Banda. The staff, Michael Mwaze was the first official, Godfrey Kukachitalu and Alex Chola. Coaches, Wilson Tonga, Wilson Sakala, Nelson Zimba, and John Bwala Salim. And the crew was made up of Colonel Fenton Mahone, Lieutenant Colonel Victor Mubanga, Lieutenant Colonel James Sachika, Warrant Officer Edward Nambote, and Corporal Thompson Sakala. May their soul rest in eternal peace. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.